Establish an asset management policy and strategy. So that's the role of management. So what is your policy? And then to develop the strategy to implement that policy. They need to define the organisational roles and responsibilities. So, who in the organisation is going to be responsible for what? And, these things might be included in job description forms or contracts of employment, and certainly documented in the asset management policies and procedures as well. So leadership and commitment, again, so acting, walking the talk. And then having change management competency. So the ability to deal effectively with change, whether it be forced upon you or whether it be in response to changing environments, or whether it changing investment strategy or the like. Management needs to effectively manage organisational change. So the planning stage is getting an understanding of your assets and what their value is to the organisation, how those assets are used in generating income for the business. So you need to go through that process, identifying your assets and their value and their use. So set the asset management objectives. What do you hope to achieve from those assets? Link those objectives to organisational objectives. So whatever you do in relation to your assets must help you achieve the organisation's objectives. You've got to establish these objectives at relevant functional levels. So you're going to have various layers of objectives, obviously the broader organisational strategy, but then filter that down to various levels of the organisation. You need to look at the asset risks, so identify the risks that come with those assets, document those and put in place mitigation strategies. And you need to develop the processes to help you achieve the objectives that you set for the assets, and then obviously filtered up to the organisational objectives. So management needs to provide, once you've got your asset management system in place, management needs to provide support to the organisation and employees to help deliver the objectives within that asset management system. So putting in place the policies, procedures and work instructions. Providing the infrastructure necessary to implement the system, finance it, so making sure there's sufficient financial support for it, knowledge and skills, so making sure employees have the right knowledge and skills to implement the system, but also understand how the assets actually work, so training and development. Information management, so record keeping, document control, having policies and procedures available for staff to look at. Competency and awareness, so reinforcing the asset management system at team meetings and the like. Service delivery, so making sure that if there is any maintenance required, that there's contracts in place for maintenance to ensure continued service, continued service and supply of goods to the market, so having well-maintained plant equipment and the like. And then the cultural environment, so making sure that the organisation has a good working culture is important for this as well. And then that overall management review and support, making sure that the support provided through those dot points I've listed above there actually assist in making sure that the asset, the intended asset performance for the organisation, so again that the assets are actually fulfilling their dedicated purpose. So again, resources, you need to provide the resources. You need to have competent people that are, well trained in the use of the assets and the asset management system. Create awareness across the organisation, communicate it across the organisation and to interested parties. The information requirements are identified and addressed. So, part of your information management and record keeping, you identify what records and documents that you need to keep. Record keeping is important from an auditing point of view, from a management point of view, and it will assist you in that ongoing review, management review and continuous improvement. So the operational side of it, it's the major clause of the 55001 standard. This is the actual doing. So, and using the asset management system to deliver the outcomes that you state that you want to achieve from it. So the operational planning, so developing the policies, procedures, the work instructions, making sure that you've got operating manuals available for the plant and equipment, identifying the risks involved in the use of those assets and mitigating those, and then that management review to ensure that all the processes put in place are actually assisting you to ensure that the assets are being used for their intended purpose. Change management is an important process. So, if things need to change, don't be slaves to procedures. If you're finding that a process is not delivering ultimate value or assisting you achieve the objectives of the system or the organisation, then put in place changes to those. But you're going to need to document the change management process. Why you made the change, what the intended objective of the change was, and how you went about making that change. So again, it gets back to record keeping and document control. So any outsourcing that you do, so outsourcing repair and maintenance, for example, you need to document that process. It may be a contractor agreement with a supplier to come and maintain it. You need to document the process for outsourcing, and importantly, that outsourcing does not absolve an organisation of responsibility for outcomes. So you're still responsible, even though you may outsource a particular function of your business, you're still responsible for the ultimate delivery of that outsourced function. You can't absolve yourself of that. So performance evaluation. So this is important, constantly ensuring that the asset management system is meeting its intended use. So monitor the performance of not only the asset, but the asset management processes and the system as a whole. Evaluate it against the asset management system objectives and the organisational objectives, benchmarks and performance goals that you've set for the assets and the organisation generally, and develop the benchmarks and performance goals as part of your planning process, and then that will give you the evidence to confirm that the assets are actually operating to their intended purpose and operating effectively. So in undertaking the performance review, highlight any opportunities for improvement, undertake regular audits of the system, and certainly undertake an audit if anything goes wrong. And then from a management point of view, assess the suitability, adequacy and effectiveness of the system, and how successful the actual asset management system is in delivering business objectives. And having undertaken that review, if changes need to be made, then set about putting in place that change. So continuous improvement, an important element of the standard. Every year that an auditor comes in and looks at your management system, they're going to want to see evidence of improvement upon the previous year. So looking at the design and use of the system, looking at the methodology that you put in place to deliver improvement, encourage employees and management to identify risks and eliminate them, and also identify opportunities for improvement. Any non-conformance. So non-conformance is basically any action that's occurring that's contrary to the desired outcome of the asset management system. So basically something's not working right. That's a non-conformance, or people haven't followed the procedure the right way, or whatever. That's a non-conformance. If you identify those, you need to correct the non-conformance and put in place measures to make sure it doesn't happen again. And where you identify a non-conformance, you may want to review the procedures and make sure that they're adequate as well. So rectify the problem, control its effects, and analyse the incident to decide whether to eliminate the cause, and then put in place measures to prevent those problems from happening again. So that's the requirements of the asset management system. So we're just going to touch on here the asset management policy. So, one or two page statement of intent, high level. It's got to be consistent with your corporate strategy. It's got to be appropriate to the organisation and its context. You must have in the policy a commitment to meeting compliance obligations. You have to outline the principles and frameworks the organisation will implement, and you also have to make a clear statement of commitment to continuous improvement. It's got to have the purpose. What is the purpose of the asset management system? You've got to state the applicability and the scope of it. So is it going to apply to a certain class of assets or the whole organisation? It's got to have the various statements within the policy about, what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, why you're going to do it. It's got to outline who has overall responsibility for it, and it's got to have an effective commencement date as well. So the strategy, so this is the doing part. So it's got to be long-term in its thinking to maximise or to optimise the management of the assets. It's got to be derived and consistent with the overall business plan of the organisation and the asset management policy. It's got to outline the processes to realise the policy intent. The roadmap approach, how you're going to get from here to there, basically, in terms of looking at the asset life cycle from date of acquisition to end of life. What is the process that you're going to go through for maximising value? And it also outlines the approach that you're going to take to implement the asset management system. So, in terms of engagement with workers, management review, policy review, procedural review, use of outsourced labour, all the factors that go into managing the asset. So the roadmap approach, defines what the organisation intends to achieve from its asset management activities. It documents the relationship between organisational objectives and asset management objectives, and it defines the framework to achieve the asset management objectives. And it's all contained within asset management plan. So each individual asset, you've got your overriding policy and the procedures, you've got your asset management strategy, but then you have individual asset management plans that document everything that you're going to do and have to ensure that that particular asset is delivering its intended purpose. It's consistent with the system objectives. It has a risk-based approach, so you look at the risk and opportunities of that asset, and it also has a life cycle approach. So as I said, all the things that you're going to do from date of acquisition to date of disposal. So the strategy itself, that's the broader framework of how you're going to operate. You need to take into consideration the needs of your various stakeholders in the internal and external context of the organisation. You need to look at functional performance of the individual assets, but the strategy as a whole. Is it helping you achieve your business objectives? Constantly look for continuous improvement in that as you grow and improve your business and delivery of products and services to the market. Have in place change management strategies and a change management procedure to ensure that you go through a proper process for change management. And then I'm just going to give you some examples of asset management objectives. So in terms of setting the objectives, again, I reiterate they've got to be linked to broader organisational objectives. You've got to transform those objectives into activities, so the processes you're going to put in place to achieve those objectives. It's obviously got to be tailored to your organisation's needs, so it's not a copy and paste from somewhere else. You've got to really sit down and say, well, what do we want to achieve as an organisation, and how are these assets going to help us achieve that? They must be smart, so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-framed, and again, aligned with the organisational objectives. So some examples. I've just got a couple of examples there. So you might want to reduce electricity costs, extend asset useful life, new capital investment, improve organisational problem solving. So, set some objectives around those sorts of things. So that's the presentation for this morning. Thanks for participating. In conclusion, I just sort of, I think the benefits of an asset management system are going to, improve financial performance. It's going to help you inform your asset investment decisions, manage risk. These standards are very risk-based now. Improve services and reliability. So, the reliability of your assets are important. I deal a lot with organisations looking to put in tenders, and the questions that you get in tenders are around your organisational capacity, focusing on various management systems that you may have in place. And I do talk a lot with my clients about their asset management and how having good policies and procedures around maintaining their plant and equipment that they use to deliver their services is important in demonstrating to in a tender process, business capability, business continuity, in the like, if, you're using say a cleaning company, has to clean a community hall by Saturday night. And part of that involves polishing the floors, and, they're polishing the floors, say on the Thursday, and, the equipment breaks down. What happens is they still need to guarantee the service is done by Saturday night. So what's their processes in place? Do they have backup machinery that they can call, or do they have an extra polisher that they've got available? No matter what the circumstances, you can deliver to a client what they want when they want it, and demonstrating that you've got good policies and procedures and backup and maintenance strategies around your plant and equipment. I think it's an important element of that. Compliance, reputation, organisational sustainability, efficiency and effectiveness. I mean, there's nothing unusual here, but it is really, you know, looking at it from the purpose of you wanting to win new business and maintain your existing clients, is that your assets are managed in a way that is going to deliver to your client what they want when they want it. And that's really the value of it. And that's going to ensure that you maintain your existing client base, but also help you grow new business through tenders or however else you obtain business. So by demonstrating robust policies and procedures around your assets and how they actually deliver value to you and the client is very important. So that's the presentation today. If you want to have a follow-up session, happy to do that, talk about a particular implementation of an asset management system into your organisation, I can do that. That's my contact details. Please take advantage of other business station services and support, whether it be needing a business and office space, other one-to-one services, workshops, webinars. Just have a look at the Business Station website, networking events that we hold. So there's plenty that we do to help and support you as a business owner. So thank you and good luck with anything. And if you've got any questions, I'll hang around for a minute or so. But otherwise, I wish you well.